Who hasn't looked into the sky at night, stared up at that endless blanket of stars, and wondered if there is something or someone looking back? It is the kind of thought that keeps you up at night and makes you feel incredibly small and significantly less important than your bills. We have spent decades obsessed with the idea of aliens. We write movies about them, we make video games about them, and we have entire conspiracy theories about them building pyramids. But usually, when we talk about aliens, we are imagining civilizations in galaxies far, far away. We are thinking about warp drives and Dyson spheres. But here's the thing. What if we are looking too far? What if the first alien life we find isn't in the Andromeda Galaxy, but is actually closer to home? What if it is literally right next door, within the bounds of our own solar system? The short answer is yes. It is absolutely possible. In fact, researchers are currently looking at several specific locations right here in our celestial neighborhood. We aren't talking about little green men flying saucers, at least not yet, but we are talking about microbial life. We are going to dig into the 5 most likely places scientists think life is hiding. And honestly, some of these places are going to surprise you because they are absolute nightmares to visit. Candidate number 1, the Red Planet. Let's start with the most obvious one. The planet that has captured our imagination for centuries. Mars. Is there life on Mars? If you grew up watching sci-fi movies from the 50s, you probably expect Martians to be hanging out in canals. But the reality is a little drier. While there don't seem to be any little green men inhabiting Mars right now, the scientific consensus is shifting toward the idea that it is very possible microbial life existed there in the past. Mars is currently a frigid desert. It is dry, it is dusty, and it is cold enough to freeze your breath instantly. But it wasn't always this way. Thanks to the fleet of Mars rovers that we have sent to study the planet's rocks, we know for a fact that a long time ago, Mars had liquid water. And where there is water, there is a chance for life. Amy Williams, a geology professor at the University of Florida and a member of NASA's Curiosity and Perseverance science teams, put it perfectly. She noted that the Curiosity rover was built specifically to search for habitable environments. They were looking for the kind of places that could have supported microbial life in the past. They weren't just driving around looking for cool rocks. Curiosity's payload was selected to look for the specific conditions that we know life on Earth requires. We are talking about liquid water, a source of carbon, and chemical energy to power a metabolism. And guess what? They found evidence of those habitable environments. Right now, the Perseverance rover is doing some of the most important work in the history of space exploration. It has been collecting rock samples, but it's not just looking at them, it's boxing them up. Perseverance has been drilling cores of rock and sealing them in tubes, leaving them on the surface of Mars like a celestial treasure hunt. This is part of the Mars Sample Return mission. The plan is incredible. NASA and the European Space Agency are developing a mission to fly to Mars, land, pick up those sampled tubes, launch them off the surface of Mars, which would be the first time we have ever launched a rocket from another planet and bring them back to Earth. However, it is not all smooth sailing. Space exploration is expensive. There has been news about the Donald Trump administration proposing cuts to NASA funding that could impact this mission. Politics aside, the science is waiting in those tubes. Amy Williams mentioned that at least one of the cores Collected has qualities that fit the definition of a possible indicator of ancient microbial life. If we can get those samples back to labs on Earth, it would enable us to address some of humanity's most profound questions, including whether we are alone in the universe. We are specifically looking at the Jezero crater. This was an ancient lake bed. If you were standing, candidate number 2, the evil twin now. Let's move away from Mars and look toward the Sun. Let's talk about Venus. Venus is commonly called Earth's twin because it's roughly the same size and mass. But if Venus is our twin, it is the evil twin. It is probably not the first place anyone might look for life because, quite frankly, it is hell. The surface temperature is hot enough to melt lead. The average surface pressure is more than 90 times that of Earth. If you stood on the surface of Venus, you would be crushed, roasted, and dissolved simultaneously. The planet is wrapped in thick, dense clouds that are mostly made from sulfuric acid. On Earth, sulfur mixes with water to form acid rain, which is bad news for plants and animals. On Venus, the clouds are concentrated sulfuric acid. It is a highly corrosive substance. So, why are we talking about finding aliens here? Because, while the surface is a nightmare, the upper atmosphere is actually kind of nice. At a certain altitude, the temperatures and pressures drop to levels that are very similar to Earth. Scientists think that extremophile microbial life might be able to survive high in Venus' atmosphere. Life finds a way, right? Perhaps these microbes have found ways to protect themselves from the sulfuric acid, floating around in the clouds, eating chemicals and just vibing. To find out, MIT is putting together the Morning Star missions. This sounds like a sci-fi movie title, but it is real science. These missions plan to travel to Venus' atmosphere, with the ultimate goal of collecting a sample of the planet's clouds and returning it to Earth for better analysis. Sarah Seeger, a professor at MIT and the director of the Morning Star missions, told Live Science that microbial life might exist in Venus's clouds, despite the acid. If we find signs of life there, it would completely upend our understanding of habitability. It would prove that life can exist in non-water solvents. That is a game changer. It would mean that the Goldilocks zone where we look for life is much, much bigger than we thought. There was actually a huge controversy about this back in 2020. Scientists announced the possible detection of phosphine gas in Venus clouds. On Earth, phosphine is produced by industrial processes or by microbes living in oxygen-free environments. It's a biosignature, but the signal was small, and critics said it might have been noise in the data or just weird chemistry you won't understand yet. The Morning Star missions are going to go there and check the receipts. They will give us much more information about the planet's chemistry and possibly confirm if there really is phosphine floating in those deadly clouds. Candidate number 3. The ocean moon of Jupiter. Let's head out to the outer solar system. This is where things get really wet and really wild. We are going to Jupiter, but not the planet itself. We are looking at its moon, Europa. If you are a betting person, Europa might be where you want to put your money. Europa is an icy world. The surface is a shell of ice that is miles thick. But underneath that frozen crust, scientists are almost certain there is a global subsurface ocean. We aren't talking about a few puddles. We believe Europa contains twice the amount of water found in all of Earth's oceans combined. Think about that. A moon smaller than Earth has double our water, but water isn't enough. You need energy. Europa is far from the sun, so the surface is frozen solid. However, Jupiter is massive. Its gravitational pull on Europa is immense. As Europa orbits, it gets squeezed and stretched by Jupiter's gravity. This friction creates heat deep inside the moon. This tidal heating keeps the ocean liquid and likely drives active geology on the seafloor. On Earth, deep in the ocean where the sun never shines, we have hydrothermal vents. These are cracks in the crust where heat and chemicals spew out. And guess what? Those vents are teeming with life. Crabs, tube worms, bacteria, entire ecosystems that don't need sunlight. Scientists think Europa's rocky interior interacts with the salty ocean in the exact same way. ESA, the European Space Agency, launched the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, or JUICE, in April 2023. It is on a long cruise and will arrive at Jupiter in July 2031. It's going to study Jupiter and 3 of its moons, Europa, Callisto, and Ganymede, and NASA is doubling down. The Europa Clipper mission launched in October 2024. This is a massive spacecraft designed to conduct flybys of Europa. It's going to use spectrometers to taste the atmosphere and analyze the surface. Here is the wildest part. Europa has plumes. Sometimes the water from that underground ocean bursts through cracks in the ice and shoots into space. If the Clipper flies through one of those plumes, it could sample the ocean without ever having to drill through the ice. Project scientist Robert Pappalardo said something fascinating. He noted that if there is life in Europa, it almost certainly was completely independent from the origin of life on Earth. If we find life there, it means the origin of life must be pretty easy. It would mean the universe is likely teeming with life. Candidate number 4. The sprinkler system of Saturn. If you like the idea of subsurface oceans, you are going to love Enceladus. This is one of Saturn's moons, and in many ways it is the darling of the astrobiology world right now. Enceladus is small, shiny, and icy. Like Europa, it has a global subsurface ocean hiding underneath a thick, icy shell. But Enceladus is much more active about sharing its secrets. The moon constantly spits giant plumes of salty water into space. It's like a cosmic sprinkler system. This gives scientists a rare opportunity. We don't have to land. We don't have to drill. We just have to fly through the spray. The SETI mission, which was an absolute legend of a spacecraft, performed several flybys of Enceladus between 2005 and 2017. It flew right through those plumes. It collected images and direct samples. We are still analyzing that data today, years after the mission ended. In 2023, a paper in the journal Nature announced a bombshell. Scientists had detected phosphates on Enceladus. Why does that matter? Because phosphorus is a key building block for DNA and RNA. Before this, we knew Enceladus had water, carbon, and energy. Now we know it has phosphates. That means Enceladus has all the basic chemical ingredients for life as we know it. NASA and ESA are currently looking at missions designed specifically to go back to Enceladus, fly through those plumes with better instruments, and look for actual life signs. They are still in the planning stages, but the target is painted clearly on this little icy moon. Recently, scientists found even better evidence that this moon is habitable. The jets of water bursting through the cracks suggest the ocean is chemically active. It is basically a warm, salty soup of potential life. Candidate number 5. The Dragonfly's destination, finally. We have to talk about Titan. Titan is another one of Saturn's moons, and it is the oddball of the solar system. Titan is the only moon in the solar system with a thick atmosphere. In fact, its atmosphere is thicker than Earth's. It is also the only place besides Earth that has liquid rivers, lakes, and seas on its surface. But don't pack your swimsuit. Those lakes aren't water. It is way too cold for liquid water on the surface of Titan. Those lakes are made of liquid methane and ethane. It has a weather cycle just like Earth, with rain and evaporation, but it rains natural gas. The Cassini mission dropped a probe called Huygens onto Titan in 2005. It sent back photos of a landscape that looked eerily like Earth, with river valleys and shorelines, but composed of alien materials. The data indicated that Titan's atmosphere is a factory for complex organic molecules. These are the building blocks of life. The question is, could life exist in liquid methane? It would be life completely unlike anything we know. It wouldn't be water-based. It would be methane-based. NASA is so intrigued by this that they are sending a drone. The mission is called Dragonfly. It is a rotorcraft, basically a car-sized stock-copter. It is going to fly on Titan. Think about how cool that is. We are sending a nuclear-powered drone to fly around a moon of Saturn. It will land, take samples, fly to a new location, and do it again. It is launching in the late 2020s and will arrive in the 2030s. It will use the lessons learned from the little Mars Ingenuity helicopter to explore this alien world. The honorable mentions, those are the big five. But the solar system is full of surprises. There is Jupiter's volcanic moon. It is the most geologically active world in the solar system, with over 400 active volcanoes. It's covered in sulfur and radiation. It seems like a terrible place for life. But scientists have pointed out that the heat could have led to the evolution of incredibly resilient life underground or in cooler patches. NASA has proposed a mission called the Io Volcano Observer to check it out. Then there is Callisto, another Jupiter moon. It also likely has a subsurface ocean, but it's deeper underground, maybe 155 miles down. It's colder and less active than Europa, but it has a thin atmosphere of oxygen and carbon dioxide. The JUICE mission will be swinging by to take a look. And we can't forget Ceres. It's a dwarf planet in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The Dawn mission visited it in 2015 and found that it likely has a lot of liquid water under an icy, rocky crust. It's a muddy, salty world that might just be hiding something. The more we explore the solar system, the more places we find that could support life. We used to think Earth was the only oasis in a dry, dead desert. Now we know the solar system is wet, active, and full of organic chemistry. If there is life out there on these moons or planets, it's likely not building cities or broadcasting radio signals. It's probably microbial. But finding even a single microbe on Mars, or Enceladus, or Venus would change everything. It would mean that life isn't a miracle. It would mean that life is a natural consequence of the universe. NASA and other organizations have set their sights on these targets. The missions are being built. The rockets are being prepped as the space industry mobilizes to explore our solar system. The prospect of encountering extraterrestrial life becomes less of a pipe dream and more of a real possibility. We just have to go there and dig it up. So, here is the deal. If aliens do land tomorrow, you are going to want to be the person who actually knows what is going on, right? You don't want to be the guy running toward the death ray thinking it's a greeting. Do yourself a favor and subscribe to the channel. We cover the mysteries of the universe, the tech that is taking us there, and the terrifying reality of space. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. If you could pick one moon to visit, would you choose the water slides of Enceladus or the methane lakes of Titan? Thanks for watching, and keep looking up. You never know who is looking back.